Right, ladies and gentlemen, for our next session, please allow me to introduce our last speaker for today's event, the Group Chief Financial Officer of Farm Fresh Berhad, Encik Muhammad Khairul Mat Hassan, who has an extensive finance and accounting experience. He graduated from University of Queensland in 2001 with a Bachelor of Commerce and a Master of Commerce from the University of New South Wales in 2002. He worked in PricewaterhouseCoopers Malaysia from 2002 to 2005 and PricewaterhouseCoopers Malaysia Bermuda from 2006 to 2007. He returned to Malaysia in 2007, joining UEM World Berhad and later UEM Sunrise Berhad. In 2012, he completed an MBA in INSEAD and worked at E.T. Kearney Incorporation from 2013 to 2014. He joined Nur Power Sdn Berhad soon after as a Chief Financial Officer until May 2020. In June 2020, he became the Group CFO of Farm Fresh Berhad. He has more than 17 years of experience in finance and is a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants in Australia since 2005 and the Malaysia Institute of Accountants since 2016. So without further ado, we would like to invite Encik Muhammad Khairul with his presentation, Shariah and ESG Undertakings from Grass to Glass. Please welcome Encik Khairul.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. Sorry, almost afternoon, right? So, very interesting presentation, Tuan Syed Faizal, and I think today I'll bring a different perspective to it, although I think you'll find a lot of same sort of like concepts in terms of application of the Shariah, sustainability and all that. So I'll cover two particular aspects in the presentation. One is overview of Farm Fresh. I think a lot of you are familiar with our milk, but I'll go through a bit more detail on operations. And then I'll cover in great length our undertakings in terms of Shariah and sustainability. So as you can see here, we are one of the largest and fastest growing integrated producer of dairy products in Malaysia. Ever since we started in 2010, we've gained a lot in terms of market share. Our market share in terms of the chill, which is what you find in the chill aisles, the pressurized products, is 51% as of last year. So if you look at it in terms of 1 out of 2 chilled milk products that you buy in the supermarket actually comes from Farm Fresh. We entered into the ambient category, which is UHT in 2018. Mid-2018 upon completion of a Muazzam Shah facility. And in about 4 years, we built about 9-10% market share. This doesn't include, this is more on in-home consumption. If you take into account out-of-home school milk that we sell in schools, we are probably closer to 15%. But overall, in terms of the ready-to-drink RTD market segment, which covers both chill and ambient, we have 23% market share. And if you can see, the growth rate that we have is also reflective of the market share. We've grown significantly. And in the last, FY 2022, which is the March financial year end, our revenue has grown to above 500 million and we breached 630 million in the last recently concluded financial year ended March 23. As far as the operations are concerned, you can see us very unique because we have our farms in the upstream, 5 dairy farms in Malaysia. We are a strong proponent of sufficiency level of milk production in Malaysia. And we also have a very large farm in Australia. I'll give more details about that in the next slide. In the midstream, we have 2 large facilities, one in Lakin and also one in Muazzam Shah, and 1 large milk processing facility in Australia, which can process raw milk. In the downstream segment, we've been doing very well over the last 5-6 years. We've launched so many products. I'll cover a bit of it later on, but I think right now, suffice to say, we've launched close to 180 products. And we have also gained a lot of traction in terms of distribution channel. Our main distribution channel is still modern trade, the likes of Jaya Grocer, Giant, Lotus and all that. But the most important thing which has a big impact on society is our stockist or home dealer network. I'll touch on that later on as well. Others are the Horeca, which is hotel, restaurants, cafes, convenience store, and also the export market. So importantly, if you look at this chart, we have quite a big presence in both Malaysia and Australia. Malaysia, we started from very humble beginnings in Mawai, starting with only 60 Frisian cows. And then we expanded significantly in our Kota Tinggi farm, our Mawai farm. And later we had the Muazzam Shah farm. This is the largest commercial dairy farm in Malaysia. Right? Currently, we have about 3,000 dairy cows over there. However, if you take into account that we just recently got a 500-acre land from the Pahang state government, they were happy with our performance there, so we got another 500 acres. So we are developing that, and we can double the capacity of our milk production there, of our dairy cows there, from 3,000 to 6,000. Then we also have other farms, Desaru, UPM. UPM is like a very show farms of sorts. Some of you would have probably went there. We want to show people how we do our sustainable dairy farming, all the regenerative agriculture practices and all that. And we also have our Taiping, our latest farm to date. This is recently completed. The factory was recently completed in around June this year, but the farm has been operating about a year and a half. So this is our effort to grow our farm network to the northern region of Peninsular Malaysia. And I think one point to note here is that the 5 farms that we have in Malaysia already contribute to close to 30% of Malaysia's fresh milk supply, right? And you're talking about the rest of the milk supply coming from smallholder farmers, those with 10, 50, at most 100 cows. And these are dispersed across the country. So it's quite impossible for you given the rate of growth that we have, right, to source all the milk from Malaysia itself. So we've gone to Australia. In the government investment jargon, this is called reverse investment, where you invest overseas and you bring that milk or whatever agriculture produce back to Malaysia. Singapore does it a lot. And I think this has a benefit twofold. One, when we acquire the farms in Australia, is the top highest performing Holstein dairy breed in Australia. So the cows there produce a lot of milk, and we then channel it to our plant in Kiabram. And because we have the plant with 84 million capacity per annum, we can also buy from third party farmers. So as a comparison, right, Malaysia fresh milk supply is probably at best 45, 50 million liters, right? We contribute roughly about a third of it. Australia has 9 billion liters of milk. We are probably about 0.5% of Australia. New Zealand has more than that, probably about 18, 19 billion liters. So you're talking about the fact of the matter is, if you do a reverse investment in Australia, you can source milk externally from farmers or from your own farm, process it at Kiabram, and bring it to our factory, our factory here, to produce finished goods. So that's what we did. But the benefit of it also is the breed. I'll talk later about our Australian Friesian Sahiwal breed, but the farm that we have in Australia doubles as a breeding farm. So we have the best tropical dairy genetic in the AFS breed. We inseminate cows that we buy there, which is the temperate animal cows, the Jersey Friesian, the Holsteins. Once they're 2 months pregnant, we then ship them to Malaysia. So the cows, the mother are actually temperate animal. We call it Bos taurus. So they won't do as well in Malaysia as compared to Australia, because they struggle in the heat. However, when they produce the offspring, it's actually coming with the crossbreed. They have a genetic of AFS inside there, and that gives them a better performance in tropical environment. I'll cover that in much detail later on. So that's our presence in Australia. And as some of you might be aware, 31st May, we completed the acquisition of Inside Scoop. So this marks our foray into ice cream. They already have close to 40 outlets in terms of premium scoop ice cream. Think of Baskin Robbins, Haagen-Dazs and all that. But this is also enabling us to, by early next year, inshallah, we plan to launch our CPG ice cream. CPG stands for Consumer Packaged Goods. Think of it like impulse purchase ice cream, like your Cornettos, Magnums, and all that. So this is our plan to expand further our product into ice cream, which can also be used later on to export overseas. So as far as our sustainability journey is concerned, as you'll see later on, it actually comes from the heart, the intention to do good by doing well by doing good. So there's a lot of efforts that we have undertaken under EPP 13, if you recall, under Pemandu, we were spearheading, paying double the prices of milk because previously the farmers in Malaysia paid a pittance for the fresh milk because the foreign processors are benchmarking to milk powder prices. So they're paying very little. In fact, we doubled the prices back then from 120 to 240. So there's a lot of efforts that we have undertaken. And when we launched our home dealer network and we grew it so much that it's 1/3 of our revenue base, we actually benefit a lot of home dealers, about 2,000 over of them, micro entrepreneurs who, because of them making money from being a home dealer or agent of Farm Fresh, they don't have to depend on all the handouts by the government, right? So this gave us the award of the Business Awards by ASEAN. SME Corp nominated us, and we won the ASEAN Business Award in 2020. And I think we spoke, Tuan Syed just now spoke about sustainability in terms of sourcing, where you get your sugar and all that. So we believe that as far as milk is concerned, you talk about sustainable coffee and sugar and all that. So I think when you buy coffee, a big percentage of it is actually milk. So a lot of consumers are now more conscious of the ingredients they purchase, but rarely do they ask about, oh, where's the milk coming from? Does it come from cows which are not oppressed, which are taken care properly? So that's why we undertook this long process, voluntarily, 3 months process, to make sure that all our farms in Malaysia are certified humane. This is done by this US non-profit called Human Farm Animal Care. And we are the first farm in Asia dairy farm in Asia to receive it. Right? And then later on, we also won some other awards, ACES awards, and more importantly, within our consumer brand as well, the consumer actually recognized that we are a brand who really think about our consumer as far as products, delivering a pure natural dairy good to our consumers. And for 2 years in a row, we won the Platinum Award under the Putra Brand Awards, which is done by an independent survey by Ipsos, done on more than 12,000 consumers. So a bit more detail on our gene bank, right? So this is very important. If you look at how dairy farming is done across 40, 50 years ago, since 40, 50 years ago, you see that the Department of Veterinary Services bring in the Jersey Friesian hosting cows to Malaysia, give it to the farmers, and they benefit from it early on, but over time the cows are not able to accommodate or acclimatize to the Malaysian environment. The heat and the humidity actually decimates them. So you think about it in terms of, if I ask you to eat the nasi lemak behind there and run 5 kilometers out of this building, right? You'll be huffing and puffing because you need to breathe in and out air and at the same time eat, right? So think of the same thing that happens to the cow. The cow needs to dissipate heat by breathing. So if they are breathing in and out all the time to dissipate the heat, they won't be able to eat as much. But their genetic will want them as predicated that they still produce their 14 liters a day, for example. So they go into negative body score. So they decimate, they fall sick. And importantly for the farm, it actually affects their fertility. So if the cow's not comfortable, they get sick, it's very hard to get them pregnant. And if you bring a cow from Australia, it costs you 10,000 ringgit, about 3,000 Aussie plus dollars. And they only do one lactation cycle of about 300 days. And after that, they can't get pregnant, they can't calve down again. They're eating for free. So your farm economics, farm feasibility will just go down the drain, right? So that's why tropical dairy farming never took off. And that's why we have sourced this Australian Friesian Sahiwal breed. We got it off this Queensland government professor who developed it since the 1960s, 1970s. In 20, 30 years, they perfected it for the Northern Territory. But they decided later on that all the dairy should be done in the southern region of Victoria, New South Wales and all that. So that never took off, but they still have the gene, which was back then in the 80s sent to Indonesia, Tanzania and all that. But we have a gene bank of 120,000 semen and elite, about 100 elite embryos. So you have the ability to use science to assist in the sustainability efforts, right? So you have a breed which can do well in Malaysia. One number I showed you early on is the cows in Australia produces milk like 28 to 30 liters a day. The cows in Malaysia can only produce, once we bring in the AFS, they only take half of their mother because the other half is from the Sahiwal breed, right? So think of it like Sahiwal coming from Pakistani Indian breed and the Australian Friesian, which is a temperate animal. Think of it similar to like you marry Nicole Kidman to Shah Rukh Khan, right? So you get a very strong breed as your offspring. So it's a similar thing. So once you have that in, you bring it over time. When you have more percentage of AFS breed in Malaysia, you have a lot of Shah Rukh Khan and Nicole Kidman, the strong ones running around. So that's the aim. So and we were invited by Philippines president as well to invest in the Philippine farm. They did the same thing. They had an army farm with thousands and thousands of Holstein cows there, and they're all dropping dead. So they are saying that why not Farm Fresh build a farm over there? So this kind of expertise is not just important for Malaysia, but it can also be shared with other countries in the region. Right? I think the other thing that we are also doing is improving the breed at our farm using IVF. So one cow is like human, the gestation period, pregnancy period is about 9 months. So at best, even the super cow, the top 5% of our cows can only produce one offspring a year. But if you use the IVF technology, you extract out the oocytes, the pre-ovum, and then you do the inside the tabung uji, the IVF, and then you use the, for example, right, we categorize the top 5% of our cows. We put the RFID tags on their ears. We take all the measurements, like how much milk they produce, how sick they get, for example, how many times you have to inseminate before they get pregnant, their fertility rate. So we have the top 5%, and when we get their ovum, we inseminate them with the AFS in the tabung uji, and then we make the 95% of cows the surrogate mother. So this enables us to grow our farm with the best breed at a faster rate. Right? So now I would like to talk more about the ESG, specific ESG and Shariah undertakings that we have. So I think this is to also answer what Tuan Said was putting in early on, right? So if you look at where things are as far as the Sharia compliance is concerned, we went through this when we went for listing. I think the intention is clear, right? When you look at our products there, you can see that the main thing there is the non-halal food and beverages, because we are a F&B company, right? And the other activities are not relevant. And again, if you look at, for us, you also have all these financial percentages. And to add to what Tuan Faiza is saying, there's the environment segment which is missing. I'll talk later about the concept of halalan toyiban, for example. And then we also believe that when you produce products and you're in the FMCG industry, you're not just strictly speaking about the halal, as in you want to produce goods with the halal ingredients, right? Which is here, the top part here. When you look at it from our standpoint, producing milk and dairy products from various ingredients, of course, this is the baseline, right? You want to have all your ingredients to be permissible or lawful in Islam. And this is a given. You will have to do it. You have to go through the process, through JAKIM, the halal certification and all that. But I think where we need to go beyond that is the halalan toyiban concept, right? So this is looking at features or fundamental items which make sure that not just the ingredients are halal, but it's good, it's pure, it's beneficial for you, right? So the word they use is wholesome. So I'll delve into that in the later slide. But I think it's very clear, right? The halal and haram, the concept is very clear. It's all made clear by all our Sharia experts and all that. But I think what the Quran says as well, the Holy Quran states in Surah Al-Baqarah is, you eat what is on earth, lawful and good. And the term they use is halalan tayyiban. So it is a very important aspect of what you have to eat. And why we believe that's important, and that's our first pillar anyway. When you produce goods, you produce quality, wholesome products, right? And this is our pillars. So we speak about all the UN SDGs, which is applicable for us, and it's pretty much very much applicable based on the three pillars that we have. quality dairy, stronger communities, and a healthier planet. So those are the three pillars of our ESG undertakings that we really put a lot of emphasis on. And again, the concept of quality dairy here, right? I would again reiterate that when we launch a new product, for example, if you recall last time when we launched our yogurt product, it's fairly white. It's a strawberry or mango. There's no coloring, no preservatives. We make sure we go to the effort, even though we know that some consumers will, why is this not mango, not orange? And then we launch a banana milk made from pure banana puree, right? And it's really whitish, just creamish. It is no yellow coloring, no yellow whatsoever. So we believe that the product that we sell to our consumers has to be pure ingredients without artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, and preservatives. And there's a lot of nomenclature, a lot of research and all that on having pure ingredients rather than having a lot of coloring, artificial MSG, and all those other things that's in the food right now, right? So I think a good case in point is our. Let me talk back. We in 2016 we launched our kurma milk, right? We launched kurma milk just based on a very simple ingredient. Our milk, our pure dairy milk, plus kurma dates extract from Middle East, right, from Saudi Arabia. And it sells like crazy. You guys are all probably consuming during Ramadan month, right? And you see us setting a trend, but all that all the other competitors are doing is putting in artificial coloring, flavoring, and to top that off, right? If you talk about the dairy industry, one of the greatest evil is they tend to use a lot of skim milk powder. You take away all the buttermilk fat, which is the most important, or rather the one that sells that has the highest value, 80 90 ringgit a kilo, for example. And what you're left with is skim milk powder. And this skim milk powder is tasteless because it doesn't have the sweetness that we are talking about, and it doesn't have the creaminess of the milk fat that you're talking about. So what do people do in this region? They use vegetable oil. And then in this region, the cheapest is palm oil, right? Nothing against palm plantation. Palm oil is very important to the economy and all that. But to put it in a dairy food that you label as a dairy product, to us is not as ethical as it should be, right? So we think that by producing pure dairy to our consumers, is very important, especially to the young kids. So what I have here is the photo of our Farm Fresh Grow, right? We launched it last year, October, and by this November, we are launching the powder version of it. This is ready to drink. And you look into the landscape of the market, right? The most important thing, one of the most prominent ingredient that you see there, because sometimes it comes even before dairy, is maltodextrin. Don't worry, Tuan Syed, it's not sugar. So I think it's very important here. Sugar, your sucrose there, the GI index is 65. And then you look at maltodextrin, essentially hydrolyzed cornstarch, categorized as carbo, by the way. This is another big story. It has a GI index of 105, almost double. So you're talking about like jet fuel to the kids, but it's a major component of your growing up milk powder. So you talk about the very high end to the very low end, all has how much is the price of it? It's less than 2 ringgit a kilo everywhere you buy in the world. Whereas the product itself is actually being sold for 60, 70, 80 ringgit a kilo. So you imagine even if 30, 40% of it, you're making a big margin, right? But at the expense of whom? And again, we talk about obesity, you talk about diabetic. 1 out of 4 kids in Malaysia are diabetic, and another 1 out of 4 in urban areas are obese. And one is malnutrition, right? You talk about kids, there's a research saying in Putrajaya has the highest rate of stuntedness because the kids are drinking condensed milk. So and they think that is beneficial, but now it's basically creamer, right? It's just palm oil plus a lot plus sugar. But a lot of the consumers think that, oh, it's a very good brand, it's by this very big global brand, so it has to be good. But again, you talk about looking at the label, looking at the ingredients. So we thought that we want to do something really good in the market. We launched this product last year October, and this November we're launching a whole milk powder version without any vegetable oil, without any added sugar, for example. Of course, there's already, like Tuan Seh is saying, there's already lactose inside there, which is also a type of sugar, right? But we're not going to go out and say, oh, your kids are going to have a lot of DHA, which is a very small 10 microgram or milligram inside there. But the 30, 40 gram elephant in the tub or in the paper is actually maltodextrin. So we believe that we are rather happy that all the competitors don't use it and do pure ingredients. So it's very beneficial for the society. However, if no one does it, we believe that we are going to be the one that's going to trailblaze this whole this whole impression that once you have a milk product that you buy and it's expensive, that's actually it's actually all good for you, right? So I think for us, we want to make sure that our products that we launch has a very good impact on our future generation of Malaysians, right? And we also have here, I spoke earlier on about certified humane. We also put a lot of effort into our product quality, our GMP and HACCP as well. And again, the halal certificate process in Malaysia is very extensive. They look into a lot of items that you have. You have to pay a fee, of course, about 2,000 ringgit for every halal certification. But the setup, the structure of it is all done very coherently. Of course, they also cover labeling and all that. So it's a very structured process. So the good thing is from Jakim, when you see the halal Jakim, you are assured that that product has gone through a very stringent process. And again, like I mentioned early on, as far as innovation is concerned, we are not going to do innovation, putting coloring, putting flavoring, substituting with chemicals and all that. You see, the ingredient list that we have on our products is very simple, right? And it has a good benefit as well, because when consumer knows that you have your yogurt has that many strain of probiotics, but also doesn't have a lot of sugar, also doesn't have a lot of maltodextrin or thickener, for example, then you're more comforted with the product that you're purchasing. So I've covered this, what's inside. So I think the second pillar is stronger communities, right? So what we have always believed in is the company has to do well to the society or environment where it operates in. In our case, we operate a lot in Muazzam Shah. There's a lot of anak orang asli over there, and we have undertaken a lot of effort to train orang asli. We even have Abun, a supervisor who we started knowing nothing, and now he's a supervisor at our farm. Of course, generally it's harder to train orang asli. You train them for 1 week for train, and then when they get salary, they go out and you suddenly don't see them for 2 weeks, for example. But the good ones that we get, we really train them well because they have very good attitude. In fact, we are starting a scholarship, starting with 20 anak orang asli in primary school. We are sponsoring them to secondary school, university, and then when they are graduated, they can come work for us, right? So those are the efforts that we're undertaking. And recently, because we have a lot of projects in school, our school meal program, we also have an effort now to spend more than 1.5 million to put in very poor school areas, some in urban, some in rural, to have what we call multi-dimensional development human capital center. So where this happens is we do nicely a very nice hall. We do up all the capex in terms of getting the hall ready, the tables, the chairs. We pay the teachers coming in to teach them. So after school, they can actually hang out there, do taekwondo, do Quran reading, have extra class at night. So rather than them going out at night, having fun with their friends, doing bicycle lajak or those kind of things, they actually come to learn and be happy there. And we provide meal, including our milk, of course. Yeah. So I think the benefit that we have from a home dealer network cannot be understated. That a lot of those who are unemployed during COVID times, right? They came in and joined us. We had a big pickup in terms of that. And then you have people suri rumah in kawasan kampung who make 3,000 a month from selling milk, right? That's good enough. They can buy back. They write to us saying, thank you. Now we can buy school things for our kids, for example. And you also have those who are very entrepreneurial, especially in the East Coast. They can do 10, 20 million sales a year. So we are actually helping developing entrepreneurs as we grow along with them. And I think this summarizes it. The benefit to us also is the fact that we are able to get more revenue from them. So it has grown significantly. And when we do school meal as well, we give them a cut of that school meal out of the price that we get from the government to pay them to deliver to schools. And this is an advantage because you don't find other MNCs able to send directly to schools, right? So we continue to elevate them, train them. Even when they are starting, we loan them lorries, we loan them things to start. Sometimes we give them favorable credit terms. Because if you're an MNC and you want to start a business operation, you'll never do this, right? You just want established distributor who have a few $1 million in bank guarantee, a few trucks ready and all that. But because we are a Malaysian company, we want to develop Malaysia, we took through the hard effort. A lot of them actually fail, and we have to write off whatever we supported them, right? But all in all, is a very beneficial win-win situation for us. And now we talk about the healthier planet, right? I think the major negative cloud or black dark cloud circling around any dairy farm company is your GHG, greenhouse gas emission, in especially methane, right? So I think there's a study done by McKinsey. 6% of the global greenhouse gas emissions comes from dairy farms, not just dairy farms, but cattle in general, for meat and and I think what we are doing about it is very significant. Right? When we start our farms, we think about the circularity that Tuan Said was mentioning earlier. Right? You have the cow slurry. We treat the cow manure as gold because when you treat it, we bring it out, we go to solid separator, we compact it, and the liquid that's coming out, draining out from it is very high in nitrogen. So what we actually do is we spend millions to circulate, irrigate our farm with it. We put pumps across, we put it all back into the farm because the high nitrogen in that slurry, liquid slurry, is actually beneficial for the grass. And the solid, when we separate it out, we actually feed it to African nightcrawler worms. They eat it. They also have their manure. We call it worm casting. And that's one of the nature's best fertilizer. And because of that, we save money from using a lot of chemical fertilizers. And we save about 1.7 million kilograms in the calendar year 2022. So very significant, the savings that we have over here. And I think most importantly is when we do a farm, for example, we make sure that there's no wastewater going out to the rivers and all that. All the water from the barns used to wash the cows, for example, the cow slurry, is all being used back. And this has a benefit of saving water, but also making sure that our dairy effluent is managed properly. And I'm also willing to answer it, if you are selling all your waste and it's a natural fertilizer, we can also get it. Okay, so the Healthier Planet also, if you look at it, when we went for listing in about 2 years ago, we actually in 2020 we did this voluntarily. We did a greenhouse gas inventory calculation. We appointed Eco Ideal, and they've been going through our farms, looking at our numbers and all that, and they looked at how much emissions we have produced. So in 2020, our emission is 47,000 tons of CO2. We are aware that as far as we are growing, this number will only increase, right? And a lot of it is actually from enteric fermentation, because cows, when they are ruminant, they have 4 stomachs. When they eat grass, they process it inside, and partly the chemical processes going on there will release a lot of methane, right? And this has the benefit of them being able to process it. It's not a waste like hydrocarbon, for example. It goes up to the air. This methane has a 30-year cycle, but of course, the greenhouse gas emission calculation has calculated that methane has a higher intensity than CO2, for example, in terms of the heat impact to the environment. So for us, one of the things that we are doing is we are doing this biogas plant there. This is due to be completed by December this year, and this will save us about 9,800 tons of CO2 a year, right? And if this is going well, we'll also invest in our Taiping farm. So if you look at it from the perspective that our farm has gone up significantly, our emission has also gone up to about 68,900 tons of CO2. But our emission intensity per our ton of milk produced has actually gone down by 9%. And we are also experimenting with additives for the cows. Like for example, there's red seaweed and all to be put as a ruminant buffer, and that will enable them, will enhance their capabilities inside the stomach to produce less of the methane. But none of the research is very conclusive globally, so we can't claim any carbon reduction from it. But efforts are underway globally as well to make sure that there's a way for the cows to eat any additive, for example. Some even say try garlic and all that, but nothing is being proven yet. But those kind of things are supposed to make the cows produce less methane. And we also do solar panels and all that. We are now doing also solar panel in our Taiping farm. And as part of the healthier planet as well, I would like to emphasize this meal on tap. We talk about, Tuan Syed talked about landfills just now. So we are very much aware that a lot of the CPG, consumer packaged goods products in Malaysia are using plastics, right? Same thing for our milk. We have paper cartons and we also have PET bottles, right? So when we use plastic bottles, we are aware of the impact it has to the environment. So we are the first dairy player in Malaysia to actually sell milk in reusable glass bottles. We call it milk on tap. We started in Mont Kiara and then we later on rolled it out to another 7 locations. 9 outlets now if you include Jomcha outlets. So what this enables is you can go to any of our outlets with a milk on tap. You can buy the milk with the bottle. The bottle has a extra charge of 3 ringgit. And then you bring it back. And then when you finish with the milk, next time you go back to run your shopping errands, you just wash it, bring it to us. We have a industrial sterilizer there. And you can either use that same bottle or if there's another bottle available, you get the new bottle in. So this will enable us, the more we enroll this costs a lot. One of the stands, the lines there will cost you 20,000. But we are doing this as an effort to start promoting usage of bottles, these reusable bottles. And this has a very good impact because new consumers who are shying away from products with dairy products because it has a lot of plastics are not buying it. It's not cannibalizing our 2-liter orange cap sales, but these sales are actually increasing um, extremely well in the outlets that we have it. So we have actually saved more than 140,000 plastic bottles in the 9-10 months we launched it since September, and this is equivalent to about 7,300 kilograms of plastics. So this will be something we'll continue to forge away going forward. We are looking into other ways to recycle our plastic bottle, helping the environment better by using our Tetra Pak, which is using FSC forests, which are managed well in terms of the replanting of the forest. So that should be the end of my presentation. I open to any questions, please.
Yes. Any question from the floor? Please raise your hand so we can pass the mic to you. We have Dr. Nani.
Sustainable milk. What do you mean? Well, I can't imagine. Okay, the process to get there, to get that certification of sustainable.
Humane farming, you mean? Okay, so when the human farm animal care team came here, they looked at the process end to end, right? They looked at how we bring the cows from Australia, the number of hours they sit in the cargo plane to bring, because every time we bring in, the cows actually fly almost like first class, 120 cows in one MAS cargo plane, right? So, and then we make sure that they are not struggling in there, because when the cows are traveling, they cannot be eating, because when they're eating, they'll be having a lot of cow slurry, right? So it's not comfortable for them. So then you look at number of hours coming in, and then you look at how you manage your barn itself, like how much space they have, and then even for the younglings, right, the heifers, no, sorry, the calves, the yearlings, for example, you make sure that they're elevated and then they have comfortable bedding, and we enlarge it because of their feedback to make sure that they're able to turn 360 degrees in that small calf pen they have. They even look at how we milk it, and for example, when we get male cows, right, some farms actually just cull the male cow babies right away, but we take care of them for 2 years, sell them for meat. So there's a lot of humane how we take care of the animals. There's a lot of auditing our animal husbandry practices as well. Does that answer the question? Or
No, maksud I organic milk. How do you
organic
get that?
milk?
Yeah.
Oh, not
No,
sustainable
sila
milk.
organic.
Oh, okay. Organic milk is something else. Organic milk, for example, if you want to be certified organic, you have to make sure the land that you're on is cleared for 2 years. If it's using pesticide, there's nothing done to the land, so meaning all the pesticide goes off. And then there's going to be certification done. Like in Australia, there's a certification body looking at it in terms of whether this is organic or not. So for us, our milk is not 100% organic. We still use some chemical fertilizers. We save quite a fair bit that I showed just now, right? 1.7 million kilograms, but we still use a little bit of chemical fertilizers. And if you want to have pure organic, for example, in Australia, the cows has to be free range cows, whereas in Malaysia it's hot. You let the cows roam to eat grass, they also don't want to go out and eat because it's too hot. So we actually bring the grass to them. If you go to any of our farm, the total mixed ration lorry will actually put all the food there, mixed with corn grain, the grass especially, corn grain, palm kernel expeller and all that, making sure that it's all given to them once they come back from milking. It's like a buffet lunch ready for them already. Yeah.
You take your supply from local farmers as well?
Yeah. So that's a challenging bit because when you work with local farmers, you need to bear in mind that the quality sometimes is not there in terms of bacteria count and all that. So, and in the early days when our founder, Mr. Lloyd, dealt with the farmers, some farmer even mix water inside there just to get more because in Australia you pay by kilogram of milk solid. The solid being 7.3% of milk is made from milk fat and protein, right? Fat and protein. So that's a solid. But here in Malaysia, you pay by liter. So the farmers think that you can add water and then make more money. But we have a device to check. So when you work with farmers, some of them are good and continuously supply you milk. But because they are such a small farm, right, it's not economical. You find that most of them just close shop after a while. They don't survive for long. But we still buy a good 1 million liters a year from third party farmers. As much as we can, we help the local farmers.
How about disease? How do you control that?
Good question. So in this region, we are not FMD free, right? Foot mouth disease, right? So that's a very big prevalent risk for here. There's only a few FMD free countries, Australia, New Zealand, for example. And here you're looking at a disease which is spread easily. There's a lot of outbreaks in Thailand in recent years. In Malaysia, you do have it, but it's easily solved by vaccination. So when the cows come from Australia, you can't vaccinate them in Australia because it's an FMD-free country. So once they are here, straight away you vaccinate them, and then you have a booster jab every single year. So we manage that. Same with lumpy skin disease, which came in about 2 years ago, right? When it started coming in from Thailand, going to Perak, Kedah, going down, we already won DVS right away. We pushed DVS to allow us to buy the vaccine. So we put it in. So thankfully, none of our farms are infected. When even the farms very close to our farm were getting it. Right? So it goes to the point that for you to operate a proper commercial dairy farm, you have the means to do it. But if you're a small time farmer, you normally don't have enough resources or time to actually look into those matters, right? Yeah.
We have another question.
You buy a lot from third party. Are you able to ensure that the traceability is met? Do you check?
Yeah. So actually in dairy, right, if you are a manufacturer of dairy and you buy it from farmers like us, directly from farmers, the traceability is there every single day, right? But if you are a milk trader, for example, you buy milk from a milk trader who worked or Interfood, for example, those are greenfields, not greenfields in Indonesia, but greenfields from Ireland. You actually look, you're not, they pick the milk for you, so you don't know where it's coming from. But for us, because we almost control all the supply chain, we know who the farmer we are buying from. In milk powder, the traceability is even harder, right? Because you're talking about milk powder can come from Netherlands or Ireland, for example, or Australia or New Zealand, right? But if we are buying from Fonterra, for example, whole milk powder we buy usually from Fonterra, then we know that they also have the traceability at their end.
Can we have
I think there's one.
there's another question. The last question for today.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there's two. Okay.
Okay, I have two questions from my side.
Sure.
So first one, right, is actually understanding that there were previously pushback on getting Australian farm to obtain the humane certification due to COVID and the challenging Australian environment, right? Could you provide more insight on that, considering that Malaysians' raw milk productions only account for 30% of the total and leaving the majority of it with the Australian farm? Yeah, that's my first question. And then my second question will be the traceability part. So just now you mentioned that actually you have the traceability in place. So can we expect to have some traceability data disclosed same as the planters in future? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so on the milk, the humane farming for Australia, in fact we plan to do it. The cost will be a lot more significant because we have to bring the auditors to Australia and they will stay there for probably a month or two, right? But I think in terms of achieving it, once we do that, it will be quite straightforward because in Australia, the animal husbandry practices is second to none, right? Probably second to New Zealand, but they have very good animal husbandry practice. A good example is when they do dehoofing, right? Cows, contrary to popular belief, the hoofs actually grow on both male and female. So for us to make sure that the female don't accidentally hurt each other, we dehoof them. In Australia, for example, it's an expert coming in for a few hours a day and doing it. Whereas in Malaysia, the same guy who does the hoofs and all that, they also do the dehorning, right? For example, so they have better practices which has been established for centuries, right? Because they are a dairy farming country. So we don't think there's a problem for us to get it once we have that process started, and probably we're looking at next year. And then for the second question, traceability, I think for our milk products in Malaysia, in this year alone, we actually plan to increase the milk production more, right? So we are going to finish probably this year around 18 million liters to 20 million liters. And in Australia, from our own farm, probably around the same amount as well, probably about 18 million liters. And we are only going to buy from third-party farmers roughly about 14, 15 million liters. So there's going to be a lot less dependency on third-party farmers. Nevertheless, once, for example, right, Adam, our partner in Australia, our managing director for Australia, only buys milk from like 7, 8 farmers, plus ADF, plus the ADFC, which is one of the cooperatives there, right? So there's a lot more traceability of the milk when it comes to us because we know from which farm it comes from. As opposed to Fonterra, for example, when they buy milk and they send it to their dry spray facility, right? It'll be coming from like hundreds, even thousands of farms, right? So for us, the traceability is there. And there is a technology in Australia done by AgLife, for example, that we were considering. They actually look into traceability for meat first, and they're exploring it for dairy. So if we can get that in the future, maybe then in the products labeling, that we can say that, oh, this milk actually comes from there. But once it comes to Malaysia, it's actually mixed already because at that particular time when it goes to our Malaysian operations, it's already mixed. But once it's in Australia, because we control who we buy it from, and it's only a handful of them, and we are able to trace it. Yeah. Sorry, you have a...
My question is about your product description. There's various references about it being halal and toyiban. Now, it being halal is already one description, but toyiban, what is Farm Fresh doing differently that differentiates you from other dairy players? Because we know toyiban means it's clean, pure, and in accordance with Shariah. So, could you just share a bit about this
Yeah.
description?
Yeah. I've covered it a bit just now, right? I talked about how we approach product development. So we want to make sure that when we do a product, we look at the best possible, for example, right, best possible ingredient. For example, when we look at probiotics, we actually buy probiotic strain from CHR Hansen, a very premium one. The growing up milk also, we're using the BB8, very well documented and well researched probiotic, which is more expensive. And when you look into our products, right, it's hard to explain it without handing you a product. Our farm cup yogurt, for example, the ones that's available in very small 120 ml pack, right, 120 gram pack. Once you taste it, right, you can feel that one, it's pure dairy, it's very smooth, it's not thick because of a thickener, for example, and it's just pure dairy plus, of course, there's a fruit prep down there, which there's some added sugar because for fruit prep you need to preserve it, right? So then you have a choice, right? Whether you want, and for example, our natural yogurt, it's you can really taste the freshness of it because there's no added additives, preservatives, and all that. No thickener, for example. So we in our AGM recently, right? One shareholder was comparing us to another brand which is a ringgit cheaper, right? But if you look into the other product, it has a lot of other ingredients which you normally wouldn't want to eat. I think now there's a movement globally that you want to eat pure food, right? Fruits, you want to pure fruits and all the other ingredients that ideally you don't want any preservatives, coloring. But you see all the big food companies in the world, just flip it aside and see the ingredients inside there. You look at the names of the ingredient, how many of it that you know by heart, right? Whereas if you look at our ingredients, you can see that all the ingredients are basically very simple formulation. Like for example, kurma milk I mentioned just now, right? Very simple. We don't need super rocket scientists, food engineers, or to food scientists to mix, replace ingredients and all that. So I think the most important thing is when you approach product development, you look at it from the standpoint that is this product good for me, for my family, and all that, and then what, not necessarily that everyone uses it that's good, right? So you need to at our level we are very discerning enough at that point in time, right? Same with our growing up milk, we can easily put in skim milk powder, vegetable oil, and make double the margin, right? But we're not. And even when we launch Yara by Farm Fresh, for example, it's a pure dairy whole milk powder inside there, right? Yeah. Hope that answers the question. Yes.
All right. Okay. Can we pass the mic to?
Actually, have something not related to ESG and Shara, but given the recent decrease in your milk prices, can I ask how much more of the expensive inventory that you guys still have, and how long is the time lag before we can expect the cost savings to be reflected in your margins?
Okay, this is a not sustainability question, but kind of expecting it. But okay, I think most importantly, right, the the big cost decrease that you'll see for us in the next few months, even we already start experiencing it, is our whole milk powder, right? We now see the price from $4,800 per metric ton last year February, going down consistently. It was 2.8. Now, if you go to a C5 contract, you're going to pay about $3,000. So for us, like the recent GDT auction, we are able to buy for delivery next year, February and March, for about $3,000 per metric ton. So that's so much lower than what we were carrying just 6-7 months ago of $3,800. So that will trickle down into our profitability. And then in terms of our milk from Australia, as you might be aware, we've already trying to dwindle down the stock by producing less, and the excess milk that we have from farmers, we actually sell that out at a smaller margin, at 9% margin. Yeah. So hopefully stay tuned to our next quarter results. You recorded, I cannot say much.
Okay, all right. I believe that will be the last question for today. All right, thank you, Cik Carol.